Hi everyone, Laurie here, and I thought I'd take a stab at creating a tire store budget so that you could see a different way of doing it. Remember, there are multiple ways to do an Excel spreadsheet or worksheet, and you should adapt to a style that fits you. I'm going to start with my own style, which is to put my inputs at the very top, and I like to put my inputs, or the things that I am providing or provided by the story, at the very top, and then I like to draw a line which will move as I insert lines, for sure, a blue line, so that I know that I'm using only formulas below. And below the line, I know I'm going to have revenue, I know I'm going to have cost of goods sold, and I know I'm going to have gross profit. I'm going to have fixed cost, and I'm going to detail all of those. And down here somewhere I will have operating profit. I'd like to extend my A column a little bit wider so it covers all that. There are two things: I can drag it by hand, or let's go back and I can simply hover there and double click, and it will make it automatically as wide as it needs to be. So let's talk about our inputs. And from the very first paragraph, we know that we have 4 items or services that we're selling. We've got tires, we've got installs, we've got rotations, and we've got repair. And we know our quantity of each one of those. Our tires is 1,000, our installs are 2,000, our rotations are 500, and we expect to do 1,500 repairs. Also, it's really important when you're doing your inputs, I like to highlight the raw numbers that I'm putting in, so I know where I can change my inputs directly. It's also very important to try and put your inputs in only one place. So although your quantity can be put in 2 places when you're calculating your variable costs and when you're calculating your revenue, I like to have my quantity in one place. That way, if I change the quantity, I don't have to remember to change it in 2 places. So that's a good tip and trick. Next, we have our price, and we know that our tires are selling for $230 per tire. Oops, be good if I put that in the right spot. $230. We know that our our installs are $15 per tire. We know that our rotations are $35 per tire, and our repairs are $15 per tire. We also know our costs, and we have a variable cost. I'm going to put variable cost up here. We have a variable cost on the tires, which is $120. We have no variable cost on our installs, rotations, and repair, because those are services that are provided by our staff, and we're treating our staff, in this case Tim and Duncan, as fixed costs. So easily enough, we can do our a miniature section where we do our revenue by product, and it will be tires, installs, rotations, and repairs. And again, I'm going to highlight these 4 things because those are raw numbers that I input. Here I'm going to put a formula in, and it is just going to be my revenue, which is my quantity times my price. And because that's relative, oops, I'm going to Control exit and Control V, move it down to the right line, and then I can just copy that down, and it should work. And according to our calculations in the narrative, that's correct. Now let's look at our variable costs. And we only have variable costs on tires. And again, we're going to make that a formula, which is our quantity times our variable cost. So we've got a variable cost of $120,000. Remember, we can format these as dollars, and then if we don't want to see the decimal points, so many decimal points, we can just move it over. Now we like that format, we can go up here to Format Painter, copy it to this, go back to Format Painter, copy it to this, go back to Format Painter, and copy it to this. You'll notice that I've gotten a number of number signs or hashtags, and that means that my numbers is too big to show in that width of column. So I go up here, I hover between B and C, I double click, and it makes the column large enough to show everything that I wanted. I'm going to reformat that section because I don't really want those to be highlighted. And we don't want these to be highlighted. So I'm going to go up here and make them white. Same thing here, make it white. So now we've got all of our inputs are in yellowish and our formulas are right here. And we can double check our formulas by going to Formulas, Show Formulas, and you'll see which numbers are inputs and which numbers are formulas. Next, we're going to deal with our fixed costs. And the very first part of fixed costs is our employees. So I'm going to make a little employees box over here where I can keep track of things separately. I've got Duncan, and he costs $36,000. I'm sorry. Let's start with Tim. Poor Tim, don't want to forget him. And he costs $26,000 per year. And I've got Duncan, who gets paid $30,000 a year. These folks are on salary. And I've got Madge, and her salary is $23,000 per year. I've got total employee cost, or total employee salary. I can widen this, or I can just wrap that text, which I think I will in this case. My total employee salaries are, I'm going to go up here and hit sum, and it knows that it suspects that I want to sum what's above me, so we do. And our total employee salary are $79,000. So here, let's go ahead and highlight these three, which were input. Those are hand entered, and that's formula, so we'll leave it at that. So employee salary, and we're going to just hit the equal sign and highlight this cell, pick it up there. We know our payroll taxes, payroll is 10%, right? So we're going to, our payroll taxes, again, we can go ahead and wrap that text. Our payroll taxes are going to equal the 10% times the employee salaries, or $7,900. So we'll put that here, and we'll have it equal that cell. And the only thing we need to highlight here is that that is a number that we input. Let's see what other employee, no more employees, but we do have some rent, and that is $24,000 per year. And I'm going to put annual up here so we know what we're doing on top of all of these. It's important to label your columns because later on when you look back, it's nice to know what it was you were talking about, whether it was monthly or annual. Next, we've got our utilities, and that's $18,000. And I'm going to highlight these two because they are numbers that I have manually entered. Next, we have our office supplies and equipment, and that is $4,800 per year. We have tools that we are reinvesting in repairing, and that's about $12,000 per year. Next, we have health insurance. Ooh, let's move this over here by employees. So number of employees, we have 3. I'm going to widen E just a little bit so we don't have to keep doing that. I'm going to insert a row here, which is an Alt-IR, Alt-IR, or you can go over here, right click, and hit Insert, and it will insert a row. And our cost of health insurance is $10,000. So our health insurance cost is equal to the number of employees times who are eligible for health insurance times the cost of the health insurance. So I'm going to put in here number of employees eligible for health insurance. And the reason I'm going to do that is you'll see later on one of the ways we fix the business is by reducing someone's time so they are part-time, no longer eligible for health insurance, and therefore $10,000 per year less. And we'll take a look at that in just a minute. So we've got our health insurance costs, and it might be kind of interesting to put that right up here by our employees. So I'm going to highlight what I want to move. I'm going to hit cut, and I move it down one, paste. And notice that the formulas, if there are any, in this case there are none, but in the formulas would have changed for us. So here we're going to put health insurance. That way we have our employee expenses right next to each other, and that is going to equal this cell right here. So, and we've got our payroll taxes, which we've already done at 10%. And it looks like we are done with our expenses. So let's see what our subtotal of fixed is. Fixed costs. And we can wrap that text. And I'm going to hit sum and hit return. And 175,700. And that matches exactly what our narrative said we were going to get. Sometimes you don't get that information from your narrative, but in our case we do. So now we are ready to build our worksheet. I'm going to first copy all of this labeling by hitting Alt-C, bringing it down here and hitting Alt-V, and it will paste it right there for me. Now my revenue, we can go right up here, and our revenue on all 4 items is not totaled for us. So let's go ahead and total revenue. Oops, not sure why it wants to do that. Let's go ahead and insert a line, which is an Alt-IR, total revenue, and we're going to sum that. Variable cost, we don't need to sum because it's only one item. We've already subtotaled our fixed costs, so I think we're in good shape. Our revenue, therefore, is going to equal this number right here. We're going to go up, highlight it, and hit return. Our cost of goods sold, we're going to hit equal sign, go up here, pick our variable costs, and hit return. Our gross profit equal revenue minus cost of goods sold, or $180,000. Our fixed costs, we're going to go right ahead and go up here and hit equals and pick up that cell. For payroll taxes, we're going to have it equal on the cell underneath. You can see that it's all moving relative. So I probably could shortcut here and not have to do all of these. But I am going to, so I can highlight this and bring it down here. We're going to subtotal our fixed cost using the auto sum. And again, we double check and it does look right. So we've got operating profit, and we're going to use the equal sign, and it's going to be gross profit minus subtotal fixed cost. And that didn't work, so we know something's wrong. Let's go back up and try equals gross profit cell minus the subsidized fixed cost cell, $4,300. And that is exactly what our worksheet tells us we should be getting. Now, not every time will we tell you what you're supposed to be getting, but in this particular case, we know we are matching it, so we're in great shape. I kind of like the look of our worksheet here. It's not beautiful, it's pretty functional. We could dress it up a bit, but for now, what I'd like to do is insert a row here, take my inputs, Alt-Exit, then Alt-V it, I'm sorry, Control-Exit and Control-V it, and I'm going to make it larger by changing my font. I'm going to bold it, and I'm going to have it spread out all across my inputs. So I'm going to hit merge and center, and that makes it look very nice. So I know that's my inputs, and I'm going to follow Sean O'Neill's lead and box it in because he loves boxes, and he's right, it does look nicer. So we'll put a thick box border on it. Okay, so we've got our nice thick box border. We've got all our inputs. We know we've highlighted which ones are not. Formulas, Ooh, let's highlight this one. That is not a formula either. And the $10,000 is not a formula. Let's go ahead and see how we've done from a formula standpoint. Yes, we have got all of these raw numbers that we've input, except this one, which needs to be highlighted. So we'll go to highlight it, select that cell, go to home, and hit the paint bar. And we'll do that for this one too. So now we've got clearly identified which ones are the inputs that we put in manually from the narrative, and we've got formulas for all the rest. Let's look down below and make sure below our blue line everything is a formula, and the good news is that it is. So we can go back up to formulas, hit that show formulas button again, and our formulas will disappear. So let's go ahead and save this file, save as, and we're going to put it in our hybrid file. We're going to prep for work on 6. And we're going to put Laurie's Tire Store. And we'll hit save. Now we've saved it. So, we're not making very much money, and we know we want to make more money. $4,300 is not enough for us to make. So we're going to go ahead and play around with some of the inputs. But it's dangerous whenever you play with your inputs on your original worksheet, because you then have to go back and recreate it, and that can get troublesome at times. So what I like to do is go up here to the little triangle in the upper left hand corner, right click and put copy, then I go down and I add a spreadsheet, I go up to my triangle, I right click and I hit paste, and it pastes my exact spreadsheet the way it was. So I'm going to label this one, and the reason how I label it is I double click on it and I type in the word original, and then I'm going to put alternative down here. I believe Sean calls them scenario 1, scenario 2. You can label them whatever it takes for you to understand what it is you've done on each one of these spreadsheets. Now we're in great shape. Let's take a look at our fixes. So let's relook at our budget. We're halfway down the second page of the narrative, and our question is, what can we do to make things go better? Well, one suggestion is that we take our price up by 2 to $2.35 on our tires, and that will generate an additional amount of money. We reprice our tire repairs to $20 per repair. Oops, escape. $20 per repair. And we take Madge to part-time, so she gets half this salary. So we'll hit F2, because that allows us to edit that cell, and we'll put divided by 2. That'll take us, oops, be better if I put an equal sign in front of that. Otherwise it thinks it's text. Ooh, likes that better. Our total employee salaries automatically change. That's a good sign. Our payroll taxes stay at 10%, but the numbers eligible for health insurance drops to just 2, and you'll see automatically our health insurance cost drops also. Let's see what happened to our revenue. Well, our subtotal of our fixed costs dropped dramatically to $153,500. Oh, maybe we would like to format those. So we can highlight them. We'll format them with a $sign, and we will move over the decimal so it looks all the same. And again, here we can do the same thing. We can make a $sign and move it over. And that's a percent, that's a number, and this is a $sign. So a dollar amount. There, looking better already. So we're making a little bit snazzier worksheet. And because everything is a formula below the line, we don't have to touch anything. And with any luck, we get the right number, and we did, $39,450. So now you know how to build an original worksheet, copy it over, and put it in alternative scenarios or ideas that you might have to help the business make more money. And that's my tire store. Shall we make it look a little bit nicer? Sure, what the heck. So we're going to make these bold because they're titles. We're going to make the employees bold because it's a title. Variable costs and annual are titles. Go up here, revenue and titles. Great. We might also want to highlight these with a different color, suggesting that those are numbers that we'll be picking up later. And that's easy enough to do. That way, when we're down here drawing, making our formulas, it's really easy to see what it is we wanted to see. We can box in our employees with a all borders. We can do the same, and that helps us distinguish that a little bit. We can do the same up here. I don't know, could be prettier, hard to say. Let's go ahead and put a nice background on this one. It may not be beautiful, but it certainly is colorful. Let's go ahead and bold our operating profit, bold our gross profit. And those are two key numbers we'll want to look at. I think we look a little bit better already. And I'm going to stop the video there, but hopefully you have built your own tire store and it looks just as beautiful as this one and possibly more beautiful.